This session is part of a webinar series which aims to assist researchers, librarians, and institutions in the adoption of digital tools and persistent identifiers for a significant increase of research discoverability globally and to increase efficiency in scholarly workflows.
Yeah, I think we have a good number in the audience, about 20 people. I think that's a good number to start. Everyone else will be joining us along the way. Yeah, so welcome to the Africa Archive Open Science webinar series. On today's iteration of that, we focus on empowering African researchers through this webinar series, but also librarians and institutions by providing some valuable insights into adopting digital tools and persistent identifiers, to be specific. Our primary goal is to significantly enhance the discoverability of African research on the global scale, of course, and also streamline the scholarly workflows for increased efficiency. This initiative, the Open Science Webinar Series, is organized by UbuntuNet Alliance and Access to Perspectives as part of our joint work under Africa Archive, the Open Access Digital Repository, which is a community-led digital archive that provides African researchers and institutions a platform to share their findings with the global research community. The platform itself supports knowledge dissemination, collaboration, and visibility for African research outputs, while also providing repository services tailored to institutions that do not have existing digital repositories for themselves or wish to make their existing ones more visible. Some links will be shared in the chat where you can be able to see that. You as researchers can be able to archive some of your output as we speak, and also we can be able to set up institutions and institutional repositories and tailor them to your institution solution. And I think that's something worth having a look at, especially as the community grows and so on and so forth. As a regional research and education network of Eastern and Southern Africa, UbuntuNet Alliance and Access to Perspectives, who are the founders of Africa Archive, saw it fitting to collaborate and join forces in serving the African research community using this powerful platform that is Africa Archive. Coming back to today's webinar, it's the 25th webinar in this webinar series, and so yeah, it is quite special. It is quite an achievement for the entire community to have a series that has run for so long. 25th webinar today, so I think we can all applaud ourselves for being here. And yeah, thank you so much for attending today, and also for those that have already attended the past ones. We have the privilege today of being joined by Dr. Ina Smith, who is the planning manager, scholarly publisher of the Scholarly Publishing Unit, Academic and Academy of Science of South Africa, and DOAJ Ambassador for Southern Africa. She is a strong advocate for open science, especially in Africa and South Africa. With over 20 years of experience, she has worked at universities like the University of Pretoria and Stellenbosch University, focusing on repositories and journal publishing. She has a master's degree in computer integrated education and has helped implement important projects like UPSpace and SUNScholar. Since 2014, Dr. Ina, has been the planning manager at the Academy of Science of South Africa, ASSAf. She is a DOAJ Ambassador for South Africa and led the review of the DOAJ Ambassador Programme in 2024. She also led the African Open Science Landscape Study and helped create the African Scientist Directory. Ina's work in open science has earned her several awards, including the LIASA Librarian of the Year in 2016. She'll be talking to us today about enhancing research visibility in Africa by leveraging DOAJ for open access publishing. I think without any further ado, Ina, the floor is yours. You'll be able to make your presentation, share your screen, and then afterwards we'll go into some questions to open up the discussion for the participants, and also some of the questions that we have prepared to get the conversation rolling. So I think, Aina, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Harold. First of all, I must graciously acknowledge that I'm not a doctor. I'm just Mrs. Ina Smith, and but it doesn't take away from our passion for open access and the work we've done so far as a team globally. Then I just want to check with you, how much time do I have, Harold, to present?
So we're here for an hour. I think you can just manage that. If we can reserve about 20 minutes at the end for a discussion, I think that would be great.
Fantastic. Morning, colleagues, and it's a great opportunity to talk to you. It's a very special week in open access because this week we are celebrating Open Access Week globally. And coincidentally, we simultaneously running our own open access webinars today. So I'm glad I could find some time to get away from our own session and join this session. I was asked to talk about enhancing research visibility in Africa, leveraging DOAJ, or the Directory of Open Access Publishing. And the timing could not have been better for a presentation on the Directory of Open Access and what it can bring to Africa, what it can help Africa with in terms of scholarly publishing. Why am I saying that? It's because according to our strategic plan for the Directory of Open Access Journals, we will be focusing on Africa for the next year. And you will see from my presentation just now. So first of all, my computer is hanging. Can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Do you see gray boxes over my presentation?
No, we see the agenda itself and the list of the agenda items.
Okay, so there's no black or gray boxes covering my screen on your side. Fantastic.
No. Yeah.
Fantastic. So what I will be covering, what is the Directory of Open Access Journals, or DOAJ, or DOAJ as some people pronounce it. What are the benefits of open access journal publishing for African scholars? And then what are the strategies for overcoming common challenges in terms of open access? Getting back to the definition of open access to ground us all again, it refers to the immediate and free access to the reader to scholarly material, whether books or journals, without any barriers. In other words, the reader should never pay a fee or have to register to access a journal, or there should also be no delayed access or embargoes. The copyrights when it comes to open access journal publications should be clearly defined, and so also the user rights. And we recommend assigning a Creative Commons license to journals and articles. So let's look at the numbers of journals indexed in the DOAJ from Africa during 2024, our latest statistics. And as you can see, Egypt is taking the lead, with South Africa not having many, all the open access journals listed. So we have still a lot of work to do from where I sit in South Africa. But look at the other African countries. And I know for a fact that there are many more African journals that can potentially be indexed in the Directory of Open Access Journals.
Sorry everyone. I think we have lost Ina. Let's just try to get her back. Just bear with us. Joe, would you like to say something before while we're trying to get Ina back?
Just 1 second. Okay. So maybe meanwhile we can share, unless it's already done. Ibuka, can you share the link to the DOAJ website and some of the resources?
All right. Can you
Um,
also try to chat her directly as well? I'm trying to email her, but then I doubt the email is going to go out as going to be as effective.
yeah, she might have to restart her computer. It might take a minute or two. Let's give her the time. Ibuka, do we have the slides?
She hasn't sent it yet. No, not yet.
Okay. Maybe when she joins again, let's ask her to share the slides so we can continue if it happens again. But yeah, maybe in the meantime I can screen share. Hi everyone. Sorry, I'm a little bit during the day I'm also doing some, what is it? Repairing windows. That's why I'm in the carpentry gear. So let me just quickly show you the DOAJ website and show you around until Ina gets back so we can use the time. Hi, Justine. So there we go. So if you go to doaj.org, it's a directory of open access journals, as you've heard from Ina. And there's basically, as any website, there's a lot of information, but you can search the index that DOAJ is for open access journals for journals or articles. And let's assume the case that you are looking for an open access journal to publish your work in as a researcher, or as a librarian, you might want to inform the researchers at your institute and what open access journals they can choose to get their work published open access for reasonable or no fees whatsoever, so article processing charges. And for that, for example, let's assume you have a researcher who's working on climate change, so you can just use the search box. You can then fine-tune on a journal section for particular, or you can also search for particular journals based on the title, ISSN, or country. So in that case, obviously, you would search for countries where the journals are managed from. But if we now go through a title and we'll find 6 index journals. So there's likely more, but DOAJ only indexes the ones that are open access and comply to their quality criteria, which you also find on the website. Sorry, I'm not prepared to do the presentation, so please excuse. But yeah, guide to applying. Well, so this is to apply as a journal to be indexed. And that's also where you find the criteria that DOAJ has set to decide on, basically to ensure quality assurance for journals to be published in. If you're a journal manager and you have already tried to get indexed in DOAJ for your journals, and they declined it based on the reasons they would likely have given you, you can still reapply anytime after addressing those issues they pointed out. It usually has to do with being transparent about the editorial board and other things. But now, if we now go through the 6 journals that DOAJ has indexed, you'll find that they are from any part of the world, wherever there's journal management. So here's a Chinese journal, which has an APC of 2,000 USD and covers the research topics, well, physics, meteorology, climatology, social sciences. So it's kind of widespread, anything that concerns climate change from either of these discipline approaches. Another journal is published in the UK, focusing on technology and geography, also recreation in environmental sciences, has still also relatively high APC with $2,500. Sometimes the currency is not USD, but the regional currency of the journal. Depends on what they charge in. So these are all quite pricey to publish in. So maybe let's search for engineering. Any journals with engineering in the title. Now we have 400, so there's more of a yeah. There's apparently more open access journals on existing that focus on engineering of any sort. So here you see that the first one listed is again from the UK and has varying APCs in the 3 currencies, euros, pounds, and USD. Here's an example for a journal which applies no charges. So this one is free to publish in and still complies with the quality criteria. So this is still a legit journal if you're concerned about what do they call predatory journals. But then how predatory is defined is also in the eyes of the beholder, and based on my experience and view. And I also, in some official criteria, overcharging is one of these. And a lot of renowned journals are actually overcharging, or they charge extra beyond the actual costs for processing. So this now gives you an opportunity to choose legit journals to either advise your scholars to publish in, or if you're a researcher yourself, to choose any of these journals. And then you might want to explore the journal itself. So if you click on the Hungarian one, for example, you can go to the journal website and then verify the quality criteria. You would then want to also confirm the scope of the journal if they would be interested to publish research that's coming from world regions outside Hungary or Eastern Europe. Some journals have a regional focus, but if they have a global scope, then it's fine for you to publish in that. They would be probably happy to receive your submissions. So yeah, that's just a brief overview. We haven't heard from Ina in the meantime, right?
No, we haven't heard from her, and she has not yet rejoined. I'm not sure if she's having any trouble. She's also not responding.
Okay. Seems like it. I mean, either way with Ina, we can also, in the worst case, we can just repeat the session and use the time that we have here to address any particular questions you might have.
Yeah, I think we can open it up to the audience for any particular questions they may have, and we actually have a hand actually.
Oh, nice. Okay, let's hear.
I believe it's Selvarani Moodley.
Mm-hmm.
You can go ahead.
Hi there. Yes, so I'm from a university in South Africa, and just in terms of open access and the researcher retaining the rights to the article, what does that actually mean?
Oh, okay. So in traditional publishing, whatever traditional means, when people nowadays refer to traditional publishing, we're actually talking about a publishing workflow that's only 50 or so years old, which basically had the business model at stake, where institutions, most often libraries, would pay an annual or over several years a certain fee to provide access to their researchers at the institution to a range of journals per publisher. So that's a subscription model. Then we have, since more than 20 years now, we have the open access movement. And that required, so that means that only researchers from that institution can access the work published without paying extra fees, because the institution already paid for them. Then the other model is gold open access, where the submitting author pays. And sorry, yeah, it's a little detour. Where the submitting author pays, the institution does not have to pay, but with the open access movement and the call for, and the research that's publicly funded should be also available to the public, meaning anyone on the internet, at least in the very country where the research is conducted. But because for most journals, researchers from many world regions are submitting to, so therefore it's difficult to differentiate. And therefore it says, okay, let's make it open access to anyone with internet access. So the public of the world, so to say. And now that meant that the publishers, the commercial publishers, lost their revenue stream through the institutions. So they applied the other one, which is now APCs charging authors. APCs alone is just a cost item. It's just a cost calculated to process the research article and the manuscript from submission to publishing. So APCs will always be there. The question is only who's paying them. Now, with the author rights in the traditional model, and especially in the print era, when we were not looking at online journals as much as today, the publishers actually needed to get all the rights to the article in order to be legally allowed to process them and then publish on the author's behalf. And for that, they asked the authors to transfer the copyright to the work submitted to the publishing house. And that made sense in the print area. It is not necessary anymore now in the digital area, but that practice remained in place for many journals until it became clear, wait a minute, now if I publish my work at a certain commercial or corporate publisher, and then transfer the copyright to the publisher, and it's under a non-open access article or publishing model, so where either the university pays or it's closed access for anyone. So then you actually have to pay to read your own published article. It's really sad like that. It's funny, but it's not funny. I mean, it sounds funny, like you wouldn't believe it, but that's actually how it used to be, or still is in a few cases. And because that's so outrageous, we now have a predominant model for open access, which is gold open access. The author pays, makes the work publicly accessible, but that with the corporate publishers is very expensive. You saw like anything between 2,000 and 10,000 USD per submitted or accepted article. That also differs. Some publishers charge for submission, some publishers charge only after acceptance. So, did that answer your question? So nowadays, because also the outrageousness, there is discussions, or many scholars are making sure that they retain the copyright to their work, and that's usually achieved through open access and Creative Commons CC by licensing, meaning the original author remains the owner of the work, no matter where it's being published. And that's also what we ensure with Africa Archive. Also by default, in most countries on this planet, you keep the copyright to yourself for anything that you make available to the public. So if you don't apply any particular license, you hold the copyright to your work. But then the publishers usually upon submission ask you to, or used to ask us to transfer the copyright to them. And now that's being challenged, and therefore there's discussions about retaining copyright to the author. Does that answer the question?
Yes, thanks, Joe.
Sure. Anyone who wants to challenge my response, please do. It might not be as explicit or clear in some of my explanations. Other questions or comments?
I think we actually have an opportunity to have a discussion here where we can open up the floor and people can bring up topics with regards to open access. For those who are joining, our presenter had some trouble with internet connectivity, we assume, but she dropped off and she's not able to join again. We're yet to hear back from her. So I've opened up the floor to questions regarding open access, open science, and DOAJ as well. So please feel free to raise up your hand. I think whilst we wait for some questions from the crowd, we can also talk about Africa Archive and the opportunities that are there now.
Yes, and also I'm looking for an already published presentation on DOAJ.
Okay.
So we can maybe go through some of the shared slides there.
Okay.
But please ask your questions and indicate that you have a question or a comment. Also, one question you might want to answer in the chat is, why are you here? What are you hoping to learn? And then we can address these. Like, what were you hoping to hear from Ina? And hopefully we can help you.
We have a hand from Bilal. Bilal, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good day.
Good day.
Good
Nice
day,
to
Mr.
meet you.
Harold.
Good day, mate.
Yeah, thank you. So my question actually, can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Ca-
Yes,
You
loud
can
and
hear
clear.
me?
Yes.
Okay. My question is this. You know, this is not directly towards DOAJ, DOAJ, but it's still something around open access.
Mm-hmm.
My question is from the angle of persistent identifiers, like DOIs and other digital identifiers. So how does that work with open access? Because I've come to realize that some works actually are not present on the internet, but they are local works, research outputs, like works from conferences, local conferences, or local workshops, or local journals, which are not known on the internet space.
Yes.
These kind of works don't have persistent identifiers like DOIs. So those kind of works now, some of them may actually be a good fit for global consumption. So how can this open access play a role in enhancing the visibility of this kind of research outputs using digital identifiers like DOIs? Because most of these works do not have DOIs. They don't come with DOIs, but they're actually good research outputs that can be beneficial on a global space.
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. Do you
All
want
right.
to add?
You got the question?
Yes.
Okay, no. Okay.
So let me address that. We actually have an ongoing project on that where we started on mapping institutional repositories to make them more accessible. Because like you said, usually what a scholar has to do who is studying a certain topic and wants to find out, do we already have studies in African institutions on that topic? And then you literally have to either go to the university libraries in several countries and hope you find something, or in your own country. But then you only find what's actually in stock at that very library. Now, digitally, now that much of not everything, unfortunately, but much of the scholarly content is being and has already been digitized. And also the ongoing research is usually submitted digitally. we have that in the digital repositories, such as Africa Archive also is, but also like the ones that you have in your regional and local institutions. Am I sharing my screen? And if so, which one? I think I'm sharing the wrong screen. Let me share again.
The screen is on.
Here we go. So, so we have, let me share this in the chat. We have this project which you can explore to try and map the institutional repositories on the continent, which is the gray dots that you see on this map. It's actually a live map, but I won't go into the details, but you, for those who are interested, you can read through this description. But from that, we evolved a project to enhance. Wait, the book had me. Where was that? We have the country profiles. So what I'm looking for. So we have, I think here, country profiles. All right. So on one of our satellite repositories that we used to work with, now Africa Archive is hosted by Ubuntu Netherlands on the Ubuntu Netherlands server, so also physically on the continent. And we still have idle but still accessible satellite repositories like PubHub. These are general repositories. We also find certain information. They provide UIs, like also we can do for you with Africa Archive. And on that, several years ago, also before we joined hands with UbuntuNet, we created these country dashboards. Bilal, from what country are you from? I'm guessing Nigeria, is that right? Bilal, can you unmute again?
I think he did mention Nigeria.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Sorry, a call came into. I'm with you now.
Which country?
No? Yes.
Which country are you from?
Nigeria. I'm
Oh,
from
okay,
Nigeria.
Oh, okay. So let's. So you see
I'm
that
joining
all
from Nigeria.
countries of the continent. I mean, 50,
Okay.
54. There might be some
Okay.
missing that are under debate of being countries, but the ones recognized by the United Nations you will find. And now, if we look at Nigeria, each of these has the same dashboard,
Okay, Nigeria.
and we are working to make that also accessible through Africa Archive on our website. But so the first one actually gives you, this will be another webinar session next year. So this one, it gives you a snap, so first starting with the institutional repositories in Nigeria. So this is an interactive map, and you see the map of Nigeria in the center. And then the red dots here are research institutions. By clicking on them, you get the profile with the URL to the actual institution, which is University of Ibadan in the city of Ibadan in Nigeria. Okay. And then this one, okay, which one did I know? Okay, let's look. Okay. So here's another University of Nigeria in Suka. Sorry, pronunciation. Okay. And then each of these also has repositories. So here, oh, there's a link missing. Oh.
Okay, those.
These are also no. That's actually, I think that's the actual university repository. Sorry. So the red dots are the repositories. The gray dots are the like the institutions behind the repository. So now, and this now gives you the link to the repository, and you can search through all the repositories that are in Nigeria, and there might be a few missing. So please, if you find one missing that you know of, and you you can go through this, or you can just email us and point it out to us, and then we can add it to the map. Now, the next one, scrolling down, gives you the journals that are indexed not in DOAJ, but in AJOL, African Journals Online, which is another institution which you might also have heard about. And these are hosting journals for journal managers on their servers in South Africa. And DOAJ and Ajol also collaborating. And here you can scroll through the the online journals managed from Nigeria on several topics. So this is just to give you an overview, and there's many, and you see on the top pages like 322 journals indexed in Ajol. Now scrolling down to the next section, this takes you to the Lens, which is a discovery system similar to Web of Science or Google Scholar, but this one is free, like Google Scholar also is, but it's better organized than Google Scholar. And here we give you a preview of all the scholarly works, and there's more than 100,000 over time coming out of Nigerian institutions. So from here, you can also go to the live page and then actually get the real number, because in the preview it stops at 100,000 or just under. But now this one gives you the institutions that publish most in Nigeria, and you can do the same for any country in Africa. And then it also gives you the dashboard for prominent authors. Then obviously the origin of the co-authors. So most are from Nigeria, but then there's collaborators in other parts of the world. And so on. So the Lens gives you a lot of statistics and overviews of the scholarly publishing capacity of Nigeria in this case. Now, here is COCI. COCI is an Australian institution who already presented in our webinar series. And COCI is looking at open access performance. Now, in this case, by country. You can look up COCI by institution as well. And we can show you how to if you're interested. Just send us an email and we can arrange a meeting. So here, this one gives you now the percentage of open access over time that Nigeria is publishing. And this is in percent. So 100% is the full publishing record. And then you see that, I don't know, 60 or so, close to 60 is fully open. 13% are hybrid, so some open, some closed. Then other platform open is usually preprint repositories or other registries, and then closed is only so much anymore. So you see since 2002, where the majority was closed access, now the majority, 58% is actually fully open access. And now this is the actual volume that's digitally recognized. And to the question, these systems can only capture research output that has a DOI and that is digitally published. So all the hard articles are not captured.
I don't mean to interrupt you. Whilst you're winding up on the response, I know how you can get when the topic is open science, but whilst you're winding down, Aina is back, and I think we can still sum up for her.
Oh, great. Yeah, I just want to scroll down to give you a snapshot without going into details. You also find the DOAJ preview for Nigeria. So remember how earlier we said we can also look through DOAJ by country. So you go to country of publisher on the journal tab and type in Nigeria. And then it gives you 41 indexed journals in DOAJ. Remember, Ajol listed 322. So DOAJ has quite rigid quality criteria, but it doesn't mean that all the other journals are non-legit. They just need to tweak a few things to then resubmit to comply with the actual criteria of DOAJ. But now back to Ina. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you. Thank you.
I'm so sorry about that interruption. We have some technical difficulties on this side, so I'm going to try to rush. But on that note, let me continue with the criteria, and thanks, Joe, for jumping in. So I've said no intrusive advertising, and this journal specifically also, it has a general impact factor with Web of Science, Clarivate, It's with DOAJ, but by making more deal of a DOAJ than we make of a impact factor. So your journal website must have the following, and it should be easily findable: aims and focus or scope, an open access policy, author charges. Even if you charge 0, please indicate it as such as part of your policy. Instructions for authors, contact details, an editorial board with affiliations and more. So here's an example of how such entries should look like. Your editor-in-chief name, link to an email, his org ID, so that we can see he's a proper, he exists, and we can access his list of publications, see what kind of expert he is. The same with the editorial board. And I hope all of you know what an org ID is by now. It's similar to a journal having a unique ISSN, online ISSN. An author can have a unique researcher ID, which is an org ID, and then yeah, it's easy to identify that person. It's not a requirement from DOAJ, but it's definitely a good practice.
Fine.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can I quickly send the presentation to you so you can display from your side?
Yes, please do.
Would you mind that? Okay, let me do that. Sorry about this. It keeps on hanging.
Ina,
No
don't worry. We can maybe repeat this whenever convenient for you. Maybe early next year, and then just try again. These things happen.
Yeah.
But also,
I'm
I can just skip through some slides and point out.
It's working now, so I can quickly get. Now it's scrolling again. Let me just. I'm sorry. It's in developer mode. It's not on display mode now. But can you see?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay, good. So as I've said, peer review is key. The journals must apply a rigorous peer review process for at least 2 independent reviewers. Editorial review is only allowed for journals in the arts and humanities, and faculty oversight is required for student journals. It's important that the journal review process be described in great detail on the journal website. And plagiarism is not required, but it's recommended. And state the name in that policy of yours. What is it that you use? Authenticate or turn it in, etc. So these are just a few examples of the kinds of reviews, but I want to put the emphasis of double anonymous peer review. What this means is that neither the authors nor the peer reviewers know each other's identity. The editor is the only one who knows the identity of both the authors and the reviewers. Licensing, how should people be allowed to use this content that's openly accessible? So inform readers how they may use and reuse the content. And we recommend one of the 6 Creative Commons licenses or an equivalent. So there's a Creative Commons license generator that you can use to generate a license for yourself. It's free of charge. Also state this licensing terms on your journal website, and there are the licenses. Of course, we prefer the most lenient one, the CC BY, where there's no restrictions. This bottom one is the most restrictive one, where it says Creative Commons. Others can use it, but they must always attribute. That's actually always the case in all licenses. And that's similar to subscription journals. Of course, when you do proper research, you cite the owner of the content. But in this case, no commercial use allowed and no derivatives may be made. So from the one most lenient to the less lenient one. And we prefer that it be machine readable and embedded as part of the article on the page where it's published. Copyright, we prefer that the copyright resides with the author but it can be held by the author or the journal publisher. Just state it as such in your copyright policy. We recommend to provide an author agreement link to such an agreement. So these are two examples of author journal publisher agreements, and you can go and have a look at it, adapt it for your purposes. Journal software such as PKE OJS, when an author submits a paper for the first time, they can also, there's also a list which the author must tick. And one of those can be, for example, that the author agrees to retain the copyright, or the author agrees that the publisher retains the copyright. It will differ from journal to journal. So ideas and information are not covered by copyright. How they are expressed are. So in this case, copyright, once published, once expressed, we recommend that authors retain copyright of their work, but the open access journal has the right of first publication. It's recommended but not required for inclusion in DOAJ. And it's also recommended that authors retain full publishing rights. To apply for inclusion in DOAJ, and I'm rushing to the end, there's an application form. You simply go to the webpage DOAJ.org. You will be required to register an account for the first time, and only once. Once you have a username and password, you can simply log in to your account with your username and password. So this is what the registration form will look like. You will receive an email which will send your password and login, and then you just confirm that the email is yours. And you have 14 days from the date of this email to confirm that email address and allow you to access the system. You will be prompted to set your password to something else that you are familiar with. And then once you are ready to apply, you go to apply application form after you have logged in. And this is what the application form will look like. It's very straightforward. There's 7 pages for which you have to complete the info. There's an example definition of an open access policy, and you just follow the wizard and complete the boxes. The editorial process is a very rigorous process. So once the publisher or editor has applied, the DOAJ triage team will do some initial checks, whether the ISSN is correct, whether the journal title is used consistently throughout the web, whether you adhere to some basic criteria. The DOAJ editorial team will then conduct an independent review of the content of the journal and also the technicalities. It will also look at the DOAJ triage team's recommendation. Then a final decision will be made by the DOAJ managing editor, and the publisher or editor, whoever submitted the application, will receive feedback, regardless of whether the journal was accepted or not. And remember, you cannot apply for inclusion if your journal has been rejected immediately. You will have to give it at least 6 months. And as I said, the current application time is 3 months. If you haven't heard from us within 3 months, then please give us and drop us an email. This is just for interest. The number of journal applications we received, it peaked into 2021, and it continues to grow, or a little bit less in 2023, but we just continue to receive applications. The number that's been rejected is over the years have been far more than the number of journals being accepted for inclusion. So it is a good process. The DOAJ criteria application process and sometimes rejection help journals increase their own standards. So don't be disheartened when you receive a not approved email from us. Please work on your journal, work with us, and continue to improve it. A quote from one of our editors: DOAJ indexing was a difficult but doable process. We enjoyed working with the DOAJ team as a support in the work process. We are a nice bunch of people. We are approachable. Firstly, our application was rejected as we did not have proper copyright arrangements. After that, we consulted with some experts and lawyers, adopted the CC copyright model, and arranged everything else in order to really become an open access journal. There's lots of help and documentation available on the web, and our help desk email is helpdesk@doaj.org. And if they cannot help you, they will refer you to an ambassador. Librarians and research support staff use the DOAJ through the DOAJ metadata being integrated with library discovery systems, which gives access to users to a more diverse range of content. And our metadata is also used by other systems, enabling transition to open access. And then how can you support the DOAJ? You can become a member. ASSAf, I'm very proud that the Academy of Science of South Africa has become a member this year, even though we are a very small organization with little funding. Yes, and on that note, I just want to say thank you and leave some time for questions. So thank you very much, Harold, for your patience, and apologies again for being interrupted because of technical glitches on my side. I think my laptop is overworked and I'm suffering of open access hangover this week after so many presentations.
No, thank you so much, Ina, for recovering and coming back to join us. And thank you so much, Joe, for stepping in briefly. I think we were able to open up the door for some important conversations, and I think that our audience today has learned a lot. We do have a hand in the audience, and I would like to give Nokupfila Saulus a chance to ask her question or his question. Go ahead, Saulus. Are you there? Perhaps, yeah, perhaps he or she has moved for the moment being. So maybe in the time that we have left, we have just about
I still see the hand up, sorry.
Yes, I gave
but you
the
can't
opportunity
promote.
to speak, but
Oh, okay, of course, sorry. Please unmute. No, Kupila, you can hear us. Otherwise, yeah, continue, Harold.
I was about to segue into a question that we had for Ina.
Yes. Yeah, we'd love some questions from the audience.
Yeah.
I might be mentioning that our ambassador program, sorry, just as a note, the ambassador program has just undergone a review, and we have made some changes in how we will be approaching things in this coming year. So Africa itself, I know I'm speaking to a broader audience than just Africa, but we hope to have a dedicated ambassador for Northern Africa, Eastern Africa, Western Africa, and then I will continue as ambassador for Southern Africa. So if you're from the SADC region and want to embark on this road, please get in touch with me.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ina. I think with the interest of time, we can just double down on one point before we close it all off, where you can just maybe specify some of the benefits that African institutions or researchers can get from having their journals and articles listed on DOAJ, just maybe to bring home some people who are in the audience.
You know, it's it's always so sad for me that our journals seem to not exist. If you think back of that map I've shown to you, and while we know there are many journals, I don't know if we are, as Africans, maybe we are shy or timid or not good at marketing and promoting ourselves, but we need to make our journals visible for others to learn from us. If a problem happens, if COVID breaks out or another disease breaks out in South Africa today, tomorrow it's in Spain or in Russia or wherever in the world. And we need to learn from the research from others. We in South Africa, I know, and also Africa, are experts in infectious diseases, for example. I remember just before COVID, I finished up a project, the African Open Science Platform Landscape Study. And one of the slides I used to use is I spoke about Ebola and how close to Ebola South Africa actually is. Just 4 hours by flight, not that there are any flights between the Congo and South Africa. But it takes one person to bring that disease, which is highly contagious, to South Africa. And I always used to use that as an example, how easily diseases spread. And we've seen, and then COVID happened in the next year in 2020. So it was as if this advocacy for open science, open data, open access can just prepare us for COVID in a sense. And we are experts in so many fields, especially in our local problem. And it's important that the research we do are published openly accessible and in openly accessible journals. And why always in high journal impact factor journals? Why not rather improve the quality of our own journals, make prestigious journals, work towards it, be proud of what we do, and publish in our own journals, have our own Africa indexing system maybe. So my passion is about increasing the amazing work that's being done by African researchers and published in African journals and African books, and the contribution we can make to the global knowledge base.
Thank you so much for that detailed response, Ina. And I think looking at the time, in order to avoid going beyond the time.
Yeah,
Thank
Harry,
you so much.
I just want
Go ahead.
to double on Ina's statement that she just concluded with. I think it's a perfect end to the session. So let's embrace African journals, help them to get listed in DOAJ even more than we have already. And yeah, support your regional scholarly stakeholders and service providers. And back to you, Harold. Thanks for allowing me to speak.
Yeah, thank you so much as well, Joe. But yeah, with that, I think that's all the time that we had. Some resources were shared in the chat. However, we will continue to share the recording and also the slides via email following this webinar. The webinar series is going on still. Our next webinar will be on the 14th of November this year, and it will be focusing on enhancing the policy impact of African research, looking at the strategies for visibility and influence through Overton. And we will send the invitation for that, and you'll also be encouraged to register. Thank you so much for making the time, everyone, and have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Africa Archive and Harold and Waprin and everybody involved, and Vuku. Much appreciated.
Thank
And
you.
we value the partnership with Africa Archive. Goodbye.
All right. Thank you, Ina. Goodbye.
Thanks, Ina. Bye.